Welcome to this learning package on project organization. In this package, we'll be discussing three types of primary organizational structures: functional organizational structure, project organizational structure, and matrix organizational structure. We'll also be briefly talking about a fourth temporary kind of organizational structure called the task force. The first type of organizational structure we're going to talk about is the functional organizational structure. Now, functional organizational structure, as the name implies, indicates the organizational structure which has only one function or only one discipline of people in a department. For example, there might be a sales department or a marketing department or an engineering department in an organization. All the people are from the same discipline. This kind of organizational structure is very good for developing specialization. There's power and prestige of the profession, so people from just one profession are pretty much a part of it. Duplication of effort is minimized. This is because no two people tend to do exactly the same thing or are assigned to do exactly the same thing. And there are very simple reporting relationships, just one manager of that particular department who has a lot of people reporting to him. However, there are quite a few disadvantages as well. For example, there's a burden on the top executive of the department to coordinate with others, because that's the level at which communication with other departments happens. Now, a tendency to have too much specialization often leads to parochialism. That's seeing yourself as superior and outsiders as inferior. There's also sometimes lack of cooperation between different functional elements because they don't seem to understand the need to cooperate. There's limited scope to develop generic project management skills, and because of that, there are all kinds of issues that one might face in the project itself. The second type of project structure is what we would call a project organization. In a project organization, the whole staffing is driven by a project or similar types of project. They're excellent in some cases temporarily to manage a project or similar types of project. You know there is an improved effectiveness and efficiency as a project manager is dealing with one same group of people. There is better communication, there's better planning, there's more flexibility to project goals because all the team members deal directly with the goals of the project. And this is probably a very good opportunity to train project managers. However, just like functional project structures, there's a possibility that we might develop some sort of parochialism towards the project or for the project. There are also difficulties in finding structured businesses with adequate depth of knowledge to have a self-sustaining and self-supporting project team. Being part of this kind of structure for too long might mean that the specialists who've come from different specialized disciplines might end up losing their technical edge because they are talking more about the general things and more interested in the interfaces rather than the depth of their professions. This might be too oriented towards the tools and techniques of project management and might not be as efficient when it comes to the in-depth technical issues of the project. The third type of project structure is what we call the matrix project structure. The matrix project structure ends up being a structure where people have to report to two managers, one their functional manager and one their project manager, for that project only. Now, in this kind of structure, there is a possibility that an individual from a specialized discipline might be working on more than one project, and they might have to report to an additional project manager if they're doing that. There are some good things and bad things about this kind of project organizational structure. The good things are that it ends up giving us the opportunity to use the resources economically and effectively. There is the availability of stronger specialist base. There could be unchanged career prospects because people are able to be specialists when they want to be and participate in projects and interact with people from other functions. This could also be helpful in rapid and agile response to project needs. This can facilitate employment of state-of-the-art technology and use specialists who are current with their knowledge of the discipline. There could also be the ability to share the expensive facilities between the individuals. The downside of this type of structure basically is that it is quite difficult to implement to make it happen. More executive management is needed to establish the policies and responsibilities, because remember, an individual is reporting to more than one person, and if that's the case, then what should be their priority in case of a conflict? Then there needs to be some sort of a clear understanding of balance of power. There's a need for function and project heads to have similar priorities. So if there's a higher priority for a project manager, the individuals who are the heads of different technical departments should be on board and should agree. Sometimes in this kind of structure it can take a little bit more time to resolve conflicts between the interest of the discipline and the interest of the project. There's one more kind of organisational structure that we don't talk about as often, but it is used quite frequently, and this is the task force. The task force lies somewhere between the matrix structure and the project group. Usually it's constituted on a very short-term basis for a specific goal. The goal is very specific and may not be very large in its remit, and members could be drawn from a lot of specialised departments who are dedicated for that purpose and have the authority to do whatever is needed to get the job done. Generally, this kind of structure is adopted in cases of emergency or last resort when we need to do something really fast, otherwise bad things are going to happen. So this is an interesting kind of a structure that one will come across when dealing with project organisations.